When we talk about not wasting your life, the very first truth we must confront is time. Time is the most precious resource you will ever have. It cannot be bought, it cannot be stored, and it cannot be regained once it is gone. Many people live as though time is infinite, as though tomorrow is guaranteed, and as though there will always be another chance. But the reality is far more sobering. Your days are numbered, and the only question is how you will use them. To waste time is, in fact, to waste life itself. If you observe carefully, you will notice that most people do not consciously waste time by choosing to destroy it. Instead, they waste it by distraction, by postponement, by small choices that seem insignificant in the moment but compound into years of lost opportunity. 10 minutes scrolling here, an hour procrastinating there, days spent on trivial pursuits that never move them closer to who they want to be. One day, they look back and realize they have allowed their most valuable currency to slip through their hands unnoticed. Philosophers for centuries have warned us of this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." The awareness of mortality is not meant to depress you. It is meant to awaken you. Because once you realize how fragile and limited your time is, the urgency to use it wisely grows stronger. If you think about it, the most dangerous illusion is not that life is hard. The most dangerous illusion is that life is long. We often say, "I'll do it tomorrow," forgetting that tomorrow is not promised. We tell ourselves, "I'll start later, when the time is right," not realizing that the time is never right, it is only ever now. And so the life we dream of remains a dream, never translated into action. The tragedy is not that people fail, but that they never truly begin. But there is another perspective. If time is fleeting, then every single moment is alive with potential. Every day you wake up is a gift, an opportunity to learn, to grow, to act with purpose. Imagine if you treated each day as if it were an entire lifetime. Would you still waste it on meaningless habits? Or would you strive to make something of it, however small? The difference between a wasted life and a fulfilled one is not measured in years. It is measured in the intensity and clarity of how you live each day. And here lies the paradox. When you become conscious of how short life is, you actually begin to live more fully. You stop taking time for granted. You stop wasting energy on resentment, on petty arguments, on comparing yourself to others. Instead, you focus on what truly matters, on meaningful work, on love, on service, on growth. The awareness of death teaches us how to live. So do not think of time as something you have. Think of it as something you are constantly spending. With every word, with every action, with every choice, you are making an investment. The question is, what are you investing in? Something temporary, something shallow, or something that will shape your character, serve others, and echo beyond your own lifetime? Life is not wasted when it is lived with awareness, with urgency, and with intention. But life is always wasted when it is lived unconsciously, as though tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day that passes is one less day you have. So let that not make you fearful, it should make you awake. Do not wait for the perfect moment to start living. That moment is already here. It always has been. To waste time is to waste yourself. To honor time is to honor life. And so I leave you with this: when you understand that time is the most precious thing you will ever own, you stop asking, "How much time do I have left?" And you start asking, "What will I do with the time I have today?" That question, if taken seriously, will transform how you live. If time is the most precious resource, then we must ask ourselves, how do most people end up wasting it? The answer very often is comfort. Comfort, when misunderstood, becomes the enemy of growth. It is not that rest or ease is inherently wrong. Rest is necessary, recovery is important. But when comfort becomes a lifestyle, when it becomes the default state of existence, it quietly erodes potential and steals life away. Think about how easily comfort seduces us. A warm bed when we know we should rise early. A habit of scrolling endlessly when we know there is work to be done. Choosing the familiar over the unknown because it feels safer, even though it limits us. Little by little, comfort convinces us to avoid challenge, to avoid discomfort, to avoid anything that forces us to expand. And while it feels good in the moment, it leaves us weaker, less capable, and less alive. This is one of the greatest paradoxes in life. The path of least resistance almost always leads to regret. Growth, fulfillment, strength, these are forged in fire, not in ease. A tree grows its roots deep, not in stillness, but when the wind shakes it. Muscles grow stronger not when left idle, but when they are broken down under resistance. And so it is with the human spirit. It cannot expand when it is always shielded from hardship. It develops only through challenge. But many people spend their lives seeking the illusion of safety and the comfort of stability. They live inside invisible cages, never realizing that their fear of discomfort has trapped them. And yet, the irony is that the very discomfort they avoid is the gateway to their freedom. You will never discover what you are capable of if you never push yourself beyond what feels easy. The deeper truth is that comfort disguises itself as happiness. It whispers, "Stay here, you are fine as you are." But that whisper is a lie. Human beings are not designed to stay the same. We are designed to evolve. The dissatisfaction so many people feel with their lives often comes not from failure, but from stagnation. They are not unhappy because they tried and failed. They are unhappy because they never tried. They remain too comfortable, too afraid to break the pattern. So the question becomes, how do we overcome this trap? The answer is simple but not easy. You must learn to step deliberately into discomfort. Wake up earlier than you want to. Speak when your voice trembles. Take action when fear is screaming in your ear. Do what feels uncomfortable, because that is the training ground of strength. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you stretch the limits of who you are, and slowly your identity begins to change. You no longer see yourself as fragile. You begin to see yourself as resilient. There is a deep psychological shift that occurs when you train yourself in this way. Instead of being ruled by comfort, you begin to rule yourself. Discipline replaces indulgence. Purpose replaces stagnation. And what once felt unbearable begins to feel natural. Just as a monk trains his body and mind to endure what others cannot, so too can you cultivate a life where growth becomes your comfort zone. Comfort is not evil, but when it becomes the priority, it steals your potential. And once your potential is stolen, your time is wasted. The life you could have lived slips away in the name of ease. So let me remind you of this: comfort feels good now, but growth feels good forever. One leads to regret, the other leads to strength. Do not choose the short-term lie over the long-term truth. Push yourself, step into discomfort, break free from the chains of ease, and you will discover that the life you are capable of living is far greater than the life you are tempted to settle for. In the end, wasting life is not about making dramatic mistakes. It is about slowly surrendering to comfort until nothing of your potential remains. So choose wisely. Let discomfort be your teacher, not your enemy. Because every time you step beyond ease, you take one step closer to living fully. If time is precious and comfort is a trap, then there is another thief of life that works in an even more subtle way. That thief is distraction. And the reason it is so dangerous is because it does not feel like an enemy. In fact, most distractions feel harmless. They feel small, innocent, even pleasurable. But it is through distraction that entire lifetimes are lost, because purpose is not destroyed in one dramatic moment. It is scattered into 1,000 meaningless fragments. Think about how our attention works. Wherever attention goes, life follows. If your attention is scattered, your life will be scattered. If your attention is focused, your life gains direction. But in today's world, distraction is everywhere, constantly demanding your attention. Notifications on a screen, endless entertainment, superficial conversations, comparison with strangers, meaningless noise. None of these alone seem fatal, but together, they drain the very energy that could have been used to create, to grow, to live with intention. The tragedy is not simply the hours lost to distraction, it is the erosion of depth. Human beings are capable of extraordinary focus, of entering states of clarity and flow where work, creativity, and even joy become profound. But distraction pulls us away from depth and keeps us living only on the surface. You may pass a day filled with activity, yet when night comes, you feel empty. Why? Because none of it was aligned with your deeper purpose. It was a day lived shallow, scattered, unrooted. Distraction is also comforting because it shields us from what really matters. To sit in silence, to face your inner questions, to ask yourself whether you are truly living as you should. This is uncomfortable. It is easier to fill the silence with noise, to keep the mind occupied so that the soul does not speak. But if you avoid that confrontation long enough, you lose the chance to live authentically. Your life becomes a performance for the world, not an expression of your true self. The mind itself is like a garden. Whatever you allowing will take root. If you fill it constantly with distractions, the weeds will multiply until they choke out the possibility of growth. But if you guard your attention, if you cultivate discipline, and choose carefully what you focus on, then clarity and purpose begin to flourish. Your mind becomes a space where strength can grow. This is why every spiritual and philosophical tradition emphasizes awareness. Awareness is the antidote to distraction. To be aware means to recognize when your attention is being stolen, and to deliberately bring it back to what matters. It is not about avoiding distraction forever, but about not allowing it to control you. Each time you return to focus, you reclaim your life. The danger of distraction is that it disguises itself as living. You feel busy, entertained, connected. But the reality is that distraction robs you of depth, and a life without depth is a life wasted. Because in the end, what matters is not how much you did, but how much of it was aligned with your purpose. So if you do not want to waste your life, you must protect your attention as fiercely as you protect your time. Do not allow the noise of the world to drown out the voice within. Create spaces of silence. Train yourself to focus deeply. Learn to separate the essential from the meaningless. Because every moment you give to distraction is a moment stolen from your true potential. And let me leave you with this: distraction is the slow death of purpose. Each time you let your attention drift, you trade a piece of your life for nothing. Do not allow your existence to be scattered into fragments. Guard your focus, live with depth, and let every moment become an expression of the life you were meant to live. If distraction scatters our life into fragments, then discipline is what gathers those fragments and molds them into something lasting. Without discipline, potential remains potential. It never becomes reality. And this is why many people waste their lives. They dream, they wish, they imagine, but they never apply consistent discipline to make those dreams take form. Discipline is not about punishment or rigidity. At its core, discipline is about alignment. It is the conscious decision to bring your actions into harmony with your values and your goals. It is the bridge between intention and manifestation. You may say that you want to live meaningfully, that you want to avoid wasting your life, but unless your daily actions reflect that intention, it remains nothing more than a thought. Discipline transforms the invisible into the visible, the abstract into the concrete. Many people underestimate the power of small, repeated acts. They imagine that greatness is built in one decisive leap, one extraordinary moment. But legacies are not built in moments, they are built in rhythms. Discipline is the rhythm of purpose. Day after day you return to what matters, even when it feels difficult, even when no one applauds, even when results seem distant. Over time, this rhythm becomes a force, and that force shapes your life into something far greater than chance ever could. There is a kind of freedom that comes only from discipline. At first it feels restrictive, waking early, training the body, focusing the mind, repeating the same practices. But in reality, it is through discipline that you free yourself from chaos. Without discipline, you are enslaved by impulse, by mood, by the pull of distraction. With discipline, you gain mastery over yourself. And when you master yourself, the external world can no longer control you. That mastery becomes your legacy. Consider how memory works. What do people remember about those who came before them? They do not remember the fleeting pleasures, the wasted hours, the indulgences. They remember the discipline, the perseverance, the work, the dedication. A mother who disciplined herself to provide for her children, a teacher who disciplined himself to pass on wisdom, a leader who disciplined herself to serve with integrity. It is discipline that echoes beyond a lifetime, because discipline leaves behind something solid, something others can build upon. But discipline is not only about achievement, it is also about identity. Every time you practice discipline, you send a message to yourself: I am the kind of person who can be trusted with responsibility. Slowly, this becomes your self-image, and your self-image becomes your destiny. On the other hand, every time you abandon discipline, you weaken that trust with yourself, and your sense of purpose erodes. So discipline is not simply about the tasks you complete. It is about the kind of human being you become through the process. Some people fear discipline because they believe it will make life mechanical, joyless. But the truth is that joy deepens through discipline. Think of the musician who trains daily. The joy of music is magnified because discipline has given them mastery. Think of the athlete, the scholar, the monk. Their joy is not shallow, but profound because it is rooted in discipline. Without discipline, joy remains shallow. With discipline, joy becomes fulfillment. So the question is simple: what legacy are you building? Are your days governed by impulse or by purpose? Because if you live only by impulse, your life will dissolve into nothingness. But if you live with discipline, your life will take shape. It will stand like a structure, strong and enduring, long after you are gone. Let me leave you with this: discipline is the quiet architect of a meaningful life. Each act of discipline lays a brick, and together those bricks become your legacy. Do not waste your life waiting for inspiration or luck. Build your legacy with discipline, one choice at a time, and let it stand as a testament that your life was not wasted, but lived with purpose. If you look closely at the way a life unfolds, you will notice something very clear: no one exists in isolation. A single person, no matter how strong or disciplined, is shaped by the people around them. The relationships you keep, whether they uplift you or drain you, become one of the greatest influences on the direction of your life. And this is where many people unconsciously waste their lives. They underestimate the power of their environment, the quiet pull of relationships that either nourish growth or slowly suffocate it. Human beings are social creatures. From the moment we are born, we mirror, we absorb, we adapt. And as adults, we continue to do this, often without realizing it. Spend enough time with negative, cynical, or aimless people, and you will find yourself adopting fragments of their patterns. The way they speak, the way they complain, the way they view the world. It seeps into your own perception. This is not weakness, it is simply how influence works. The problem arises when you fail to recognize it and continue to surround yourself with influences that push you further away from the life you actually want to live. On the other hand, When you intentionally choose relationships rooted in growth, integrity, and wisdom, you begin to elevate yourself. Being in the company of disciplined, purposeful, and compassionate people awakens the same qualities within you. They challenge you not through pressure but by example. Their presence silently asks you to rise higher, to expect more from yourself, to live with more awareness. And so your destiny is not only written by your own choices, it is co-authored by the company you keep. We often imagine that wasting a life means doing nothing, drifting aimlessly. But wasting a life can also mean allowing yourself to live small, because you never broke free from relationships that held you down. How many dreams have died because someone listened too closely to the discouragement of others? How many lives have been wasted because someone was too afraid to outgrow the circle that no longer matched their vision? Relationships are not neutral. They either help you become more of who you are meant to be, or they bury that potential under layers of compromise and comfort. There is a painful truth here. Sometimes, protecting your life from waste requires letting go. It requires the courage to step away from those who drain your energy, distort your values, or keep you anchored in the past. This does not mean you despise them. It means you recognize that your path requires a different alignment. Growth is often lonely at first because it creates distance from those who are unwilling to grow with you. But in that space, new relationships can form, ones that resonate with the direction you are moving, not the life you are leaving behind. And remember, relationships are not only about what you receive, they are also about what you contribute. A wasted life is not just one lived among the wrong people, but one that fails to be the right person for others. When you bring kindness, wisdom, and strength into your relationships, you amplify those qualities within yourself. You become someone who uplifts, someone whose influence endures long after conversations fade. In this sense, your legacy is not just in what you achieve alone, but in the lives you touched, the growth you inspired, the energy you carried into every connection. So ask yourself, who is shaping me? Who am I shaping? Are the relationships I keep aligned with the kind of life I wish to live? Or are they slowly pulling me toward waste? These questions are not easy, but they are necessary if you truly value the brief time you have on this earth. In the end, relationships are the invisible architecture of a life well lived or a life wasted. Choose them with care, nurture them with presence, and have the courage to walk away when they no longer serve the highest path. Do not waste your life in the wrong company. Surround yourself with those who remind you of who you can become, and become that reminder for others. There is one truth that unites every single human being. Regardless of culture, belief, or status, life is finite. No one escapes death, and yet it is the one reality we are most reluctant to face. We distract ourselves, we postpone reflection. We act as if tomorrow is guaranteed, but the awareness of mortality is not meant to paralyze us. It is meant to wake us up. It is meant to remind us that wasting time is the greatest waste of all, because time is the only currency we never get back. When you realize that every day is borrowed, that every breath is a gift not promised, your perspective shifts. Suddenly, the trivial arguments, the endless scrolling, the meaningless pursuits, they begin to lose their weight. What once seemed urgent now appears hollow, and what you once neglected, relationships, growth, contribution, suddenly becomes central. Mortality is the ultimate teacher, because it strips away illusions and confronts us with what truly matters. It's important to understand that death is not the opposite of life. It is part of it, and when you embrace this truth, something extraordinary happens. You begin to live more fully. Those who deny death often waste life, because they live as if there will always be more time. But those who accept death often live with greater presence, because they know the clock is ticking. This acceptance does not make life darker, it makes it more precious. Every conversation, every experience, every choice gains weight when you understand it might be the last. Many people fear death because they know, deep down, they have not truly lived. They have held back, waiting for the perfect time, waiting until conditions were ideal. But life does not wait. The graveyards are full of unwritten books, unsung songs, unlived dreams. When you delay, you gamble with something you do not own, the future. And so, to not waste your life, you must live with urgency, not the restless urgency of panic, but the focused urgency of purpose. This does not mean recklessly chasing every desire. It means aligning yourself with what matters most to you, and giving yourself fully to it. Ask yourself, if today were my last day, would I be proud of how I lived it? Not in terms of achievements or recognition, but in terms of authenticity and presence. Did I love fully? Did I use my gifts? Did I contribute to something larger than myself? These questions, asked regularly, protect you from the slow erosion of drifting through life unconsciously. Mortality is not meant to depress you. It is meant to free you. When you stop pretending you have endless time, you stop living for the approval of others. You stop postponing joy. You stop tolerating what drains you. You begin to act with courage, because you realize fear of failure is insignificant compared to the reality of wasted years. Death is not the enemy. A wasted life is. And so let mortality be your wake-up call. Not a reminder to fear the end, but a reminder to embrace the present. To say what needs to be said, to take the risk. To live the life that feels true to your spirit, not the one expected by others. Because in the end, life is not measured by its length, but by its depth. The time you have is limited, and that is what makes it meaningful. Do not waste it in hesitation, in distraction, in living half-heartedly. Use the awareness of your mortality as fuel to live more intentionally, more courageously, more alive. Remember this: death is inevitable, but wasting your life is not.